Well, hello and good evening, and welcome to the All Portable Discussion Zone. It's a bi-weekly live stream all about amateur radio portable ops. My name is Charlie. Call sign is November Juliet 7 Victor. With me this evening are the show's two co-hosts, Dan, KC7MSU, and Brian, W7JET. And just to remind you, every other show or thereabouts, Brian and I will be coming to you with our own topics of interest, so we don't have a guest this evening, but we will in 2 weeks. Welcome to those of you who are in the chat. I see several of you in there, and I've said hi to a few of you, but welcome. I hope that you interact with us. If you have a comments or question, please post them, and we'll try to throw them up so everybody can see them. Go ahead and do that. And I think that Dan will have a specific question for you guys later on, so make sure you give your best shot at answering the question when that comes. Don't forget that this show is converted to a podcast about 24 hours after we go live here, so you can catch the podcast version if you like. And so with that, let's get the host-only version of this show underway. I don't think we will go through and do the rounds like we normally do and ask what everybody's been up to, because we're each going to have a turn anyway. So let's just throw right into Brian. Brian, what have you been up to, and what's your topic?
So my topic today, about 2 weeks ago, I was working on a rotor because my light-duty rotor on my tower went out. And I had one that I was working on. And our club member, Steve, KB7KWK, happened to come by the house to get something from me club-related. And he goes, hey, I got one of those. Somebody gave me. I don't need it. I don't want it. It looks like it might be junk, but maybe you can get some parts out of it for your stuff. So I was like, oh, sure. I'll come by and get it from you. Well, I have a high gain 4, and the one that he had was a tail twister, which is the heaviest, dutiest of all the rotors that High Gain made. And when I looked at it initially, it looked like it had been stored in a bucket of water. So I was kind of curious as to what it was going to look like when I got it and I opened it up. So I opened it up. And when I opened it up, or I tried to open it up, I got the top case off.
Yeah, let's take a look at that. Which one's this? This is
the tail twister. So this is the top of the rotor. So this would be sitting on top. This is what the mast would come out of to go up into your tower. And if you look inside of here, you can see this area here. These are the bearing races. I have not gotten to work on cleaning this yet, but that's after a bunch of degreaser and a bunch of other stuff to get it sort of clean. The most of the inside looked like right here, which is a whole bunch of rust. And you've got the bottom where the brake gear goes. And as you can see, all these here, that's not a paint, that's rust from where the bearings were sitting. There's a set of bearings that ride here, and then in the tail twisters, there's actually a third set of bearings down here, and then these gears are for the wedge brake, which keeps the rotor from turning. So these were so bad that this part here, which is the internal motor assembly that sits inside of this, like so, this was in here, was so corroded in there that I had to soak it in penetrating oil for about 2 hours and then beat on the bottom of it with a sledgehammer to get this to pop out so I can get the bearings out.
Wow. So is that an aluminum casing, Brian?
Yes, it is an aluminum casing, but it was so corroded, it was so bad. But surprisingly, the races aren't deeply pitted and they're not dented. A lot of times these things, because they carry very heavy masts and towers, if they sit in one position for too long, you'll have divots from where the bearings keep banging into the soft aluminum. And sometimes it's so deep that you can't polish it out and you'd have to replace these parts. But these are actually okay. They have some light surface corrosion on them, and I'm going to be able to clean them up with that. So the last thing that has to be done to this is you can see the bottom of that. That's where the screw terminals are. Normally, they would look, and hang on one second. I'm going to step off frame for a moment and just block the camera. I'll be right back.
All right. He's going to surprise us with something really cool, I'm sure.
I can hear it rattling around.
Yeah.
All right, I'm back. So normally that's what you would see on the bottom there. Nice, clean screws. This is actually removed from another rotor that I did this mod on. So what people are doing now is they're taking this board off, which this one you can't really tell from the picture because of the light, but Let me see. I might be able to help with that a little bit. Let's get a little extra stage light going. So there we go. That's a little better, maybe.
Oh yeah, you can see it.
So those are pure rust. And that's mainly because of the dissimilar metals and the water over the years. So the screws are stainless and the wire is going to either copper or aluminum, and you get the dissimilar metals, and which causes rust. So what they're doing now is they're removing that board completely and putting a piece of rotor cable through it, or a amp connector, which is just a round plastic connector, into that hole, and having it go through and eliminating those all together so you can waterproof the connection really nice. So that'll be one of the other things I'll be doing to this rotor. But the main thing that I was concerned about was that the motor, and let me pull the bell off the bottom so you can see that. And this little thing here, which is, so you can see that right there, that is the brake. So that's what goes into those gears that you saw in the bottom of the bottom bell. That's what keeps this from turning in the wind. Then you've got the reducted gears here along with the motor. Now, when I first took this apart, I couldn't even move these with my fingers at all. This was so corroded and so basically jacked up. So I took the whole motor apart. I got it all lubricated. I cleaned it up, cleaned the commutator, put electrical power to it, and it spun freely. Didn't heat up at all, didn't bind, didn't do anything. The wedge brake worked perfectly as well. So that's when I determined, okay, this is actually serviceable. I can rebuild this. So the last thing that I went and checked are these things here, which are the leaf switches. The older models, there's a little tab right here that you can see that I'm moving my finger on. Right here. And what that does is, as the rotor turns, it doesn't turn 360 degrees. It turns 359, and then it stops and you go the other way. And generally, depending upon what hemisphere you're in, you either set the limit to the south or you set it to the north, right? So for us, generally, you set the stops on the south because you want to shoot over the pole. So when it hits 180 degrees, in one direction it stops, or 180 degrees in the other direction it stops, then you have to go the other way. Well, this switch is all corroded, you can see, and there's supposed to be some plastic pieces on here, which I can probably rebuild, that'll stop it. But when I priced out a new switch, I found a used one for $20. So when this is all said and done, between the switch, the little bit of sweat equity I'm putting into it now, the ball bearings, the connector, and the rotor cable, I'm going to have about $70 into this rotor, and knew they would, which they're not in production anymore, because as we all know, high gain is currently going out of production because nobody's buying it at the moment. But this rotor was about an $800 rotor, brand new.
Wow, that's a good investment. What's your plans with it?
Well, I don't know yet. So this is the other thing I was talking about. This is the actual potentiometer that sends the position back to the little meter on the front of the rotor. So if I had this hooked up to the meter and spun this, you'd actually see the needle move as it moves across the top. And this is what's telling you the position of the actual rotor.
So have you measured that? Is it pretty linear still, or?
Yep, it works perfply. I tested that. I checked so there's a whole grate, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen on this. So let me bring that over here. Present. Share screen. Share screen. We're going to go to this one over here. Share screen. All right. Can you guys see that?
It's coming up. There it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is the on-all bands block. So if you're not familiar with on-all bands is a product of DX Engineering. It's for the ham community, and it's stuff of interest. And this is a great cookbook on how to troubleshoot and test and do all stuff with high gain rotors specifically. So if you go through it, it tells you how check things, how to check the control box, what the layout of the boards are, what the typical color coding is. Now, this color coding that they're showing you here are for rotors that were manufactured probably in the last 25 years. So if the rotor is older than 25 years, these are going to be a little bit different, slightly different when you look inside. So this is inside the rotor going to that terminal board. If you never have to mess with the inside of the rotor, you'll never mess with this. But some of the coloring is a little bit different. So that rotor that I showed you just now, that rotor is actually slightly different. So on the white, this wire is it's white, black wire, heavy gray. That's correct. And then inside the rotor, though, the white, there's no white wire. It's actually a yellow wire. So the yellow wire would go there. And then this yellow wire down here is actually white. And then there is a second wire, a brown wire that goes up to the black. And I have that information. So if you happen to get a rotor like that, feel free to reach out to me. I've got that color coding for you. And I can help you out with that if it's an older rotor. Oh, that's a good thing to talk about. Sorry, dancing around here. But so let's say you have a high gain rotor and you're like, geez, when was this thing made? Right. So it might be hard to see this, and I might just take a picture of it and I'll share the picture instead. But let's try it out anyway. I'm going to stand up and we're going to hold it up to the camera. So you might, you should be able to see.
I can see that. What are you showing? You're just showing the rusted screw heads?
So right here, see that November there, 82?
Oh, yeah, you can see it. Yeah.
So on the bottom of every high gain rotor, no matter what the model is, the 4, the Ham 4, the CD 45, which is the light duty rotor, or the tail twister, there's a month and year manufacture date stamped on the bottom of the rotor to tell you when the rotor was made. And that'll help you with troubleshooting and also understanding some of the color codes and the way it was done, and also ordering the parts. So that limit switch that I was talking about, if that rotor was made in the last 20 years, it would actually be 2 micro switches and not a metal leaf switch. That goes back and forth and helps that stop. So anyway, as we go down through the screen here again, which we'll show that back now, you've got a whole troubleshooting area on how to check everything with a multimeter, and you can verify that all the stuff works. So let's say your rotor stopped working and it's up on a 40-foot tower, or like me with my older tower, it was a pole and I can't climb it. If I have to work on anything, I have to lower it to the ground every single time, which is good, but it's extra work. So with this, you can kind of go, is it the rotor? What's the problem? You can go through and check all this stuff with a multimeter, and you can kind of narrow it down to what the problem might be, and then decide if the tower needs to come down, if you have to climb up and change the rotor. But when all this stuff is great, because if you have a tower and a rotor and you're chasing from home, you want to be able to talk to people. And the QRP guys that are running 5 watts on phone, they definitely appreciate your yes, I do use my rotor for SOTA and POTA chases, as a matter of fact. And that's why we're talking about this, so, especially because a nice beam at 50 feet, I can hear things a lot better than a guy that's chasing you with a wire. So if you need that fourth contact, you're probably going to get me before you'll get the guy using the wire in his backyard. If you're running 5 watts, especially if you're running it on phone.
Yeah, this is for the audience too, for you in chat. If you have do you in chat, if you're listening, or do you use a rotor for your SOTA POTA chases?
Yeah. So this is it's on allbands.com, and you can just look how to check. If you actually just Google altogether how to check rotors from the ground, it'll come right up for you. And it's just a great little guide on how to do it. If you're not really mechanically inclined, or you don't like messing with this type of stuff, there are services out there that you can send them to, and they will send you back a brand new rotor. They usually charge you about $150 to do that, and then parts. So these are the bearing races that are inside. And you get the little balls in there. These are all cleaned out. So these are going to get the new bearings put in them when they go back together. These are some of the only salvageable balls that were in the original one. In fact, this is it's going to be hard to see, but this is what they look like. And this one here is not quite a honey roasted peanut, but a lot of them were really like honey roasted peanuts. They were so bad. And then this is the ring gear that would be riding in the top of the rotor. So So this part right here, this goes in here, and this is what turns. So this is going to sit in the bell. These tabs would sit. See those three little notches in there. So those tabs sit in those notches, and that's what turns this. This part, if you're familiar with the rotor, this part's actually what's bolted to the tower. It's fixed. It's not moving. So the entire housing that goes around this is actually what turns. This stays stationary. The motor, the gears, the reduction gears, and the and this ring are what actually does all the turning and the work. And the whole bell, the top and the bottom of the bell turn. This does not move at all. This part physically is what's attached to the tower and carrying the weight of everything.
That's amazing. So you use a rotor. I guess nobody else in chat right now does, because they would have popped in. But we did get a comment here that from Quarantine Catholic says that the SDRplay. I don't even know what that is. Do you know, Brian, what the SDRplay is?
Yes, absolutely. I actually have. So I have a Kenwood TS890, and I don't have a second receiver, but my radio is capable of sharing a port where I push a button, and I have an SDRplay hooked up to that port. So basically, it gives me an extra antenna, or it gives the ability of another radio to use my antennas to receive. And that SDRplay, what that allows me to do is if I'm trying to chase a DXpedition that's running split, I can use the SDRplay's receiver, and I can listen where everybody's calling. And then I can hear the guy that goes from his call sign to 599 TU. And I know, and I can kind of figure out how the DXpedition's moving back and forth. And that's what I use my SDRplay for primarily. Or if I'm doing like the CWTs and I see there's a lot of activity on another band, I can take that receiver and go listen on that other band and see if there's something going on over there. And then I'll flip over there and work it real fast and come back if I want to. So yes, I do have an SDRplay. It's basically just a small, depending upon the model you get, they range anywhere from about $150 to about $280, I think. And they have their own software. You can, all you need is an antenna to hook it up to. So you can run it off of, I mean, if you wanted to, you can just hook it up to a simple dipole outside, or if your radio is capable of sharing antenna outputs that from the antenna it's using primarily, then you can do that. As I said, with the TS890, I'll just have to hold the receive antenna button for a little bit, and it turns that output on for the SDRplay. Now, the only problem with doing that on the Kenwood, and this is just a Kenwood thing, because you're sharing some of the antenna, there is a little bit of insertion loss when you're doing that. So you lose about a dB of sensitivity. So if you're trying to work something weak, you might make it worse. But if you're not, but if it's a nice strong signal, it doesn't matter. You're just using it to snoop.
Yes.
So yeah, I do have an SDRplay, and it does work quite well.
So you can even take and look at the spectrum output, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And this
so
particular,
you get a good idea where people are.
Absolutely, yeah. And this one goes all the way up into the gigahertz range. So it has 3 antenna ports on the back. And I haven't done it yet, but I can hook up the other one to my VHF disc cone that I have outside for one of the scanners. Run a tap off of that, and if I want to, I can turn on the club repeaters or whatever and listen to what's going on that and put it through the computer. And the nice thing about that too is if you're remote, you're somewhere else, and you could do a remote desktop, you have access to all that through your remote desktop. It is only a receiver though. It is not a transmitter.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely know exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah. Well, he added a comment here too. I am about to make an antenna with wire going all around my property. Decided SDRplay antenna. They are at HRO. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Good deal. Yeah. If I have a pretty good antenna farm, as you guys know, so I can tap into all that stuff. And if I could, that's the main reason why I run it through the 890 is because of whatever band I'm on is generally wrong, and I want to be able to listen. So, KI5WEP. Very good. Your You're muted, Charlie. You're muted.
Anything else there on the rotor, Brian?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. I'm available for any questions, and I said it offline if anybody's got a rotor that's unhealthy and they need somebody to help them troubleshoot it or walk through it or whatever. Just shoot me an email, shoot me a text. I've over the last year I've kind of become a fairly at least when it comes to high gain rotors. I can't help you with anything else, but high gain rotors I've gotten pretty good at working with those.
How much more time do you think you'll have to put into it before you're confident that it's ready to go and stuff?
So I had other projects this week to deal with. I'm actually off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I really just need about an hour or two in the backyard with some Scotch-Brite and some sandpaper to clean up the inside of it. And then I got to solder in take out the old switch and solder in the new switch, and that won't be very hard. So I've realistically like 2.5 hours. And if I get once I know for sure that it works, I'm probably going to repaint the nice black on the outside of it, and then that'll just sit on the shelf as a spare. And if the ham 4 ever decides to stop working, that'll probably what goes in the tower to replace the ham 4 while I rebuild the ham 4. I'm really hoping that since there's so many high gain rotors out there, I mean there's thousands of them, that somewhere somebody will pick up the line and or at least make parts for them so that they don't become made of unobtainium and you can't fix them anymore because you just can't get parts for them anymore.
Yeah.
Very cool. So we have Gary, a local guy we know very well. He participates in the Summits on the Air with us, K7UOU. He says he has a 9-to-1 UNAN hooked up to his daughter's tetherball stand with a wire attached to a lodge attached to a mast lodged in a tree. Cool. And the counterpoise is tied to the cinder block. Okay. Not a lot of DXing. All right. But you're chasing POTA and SOTA, right?
That's the goal.
Yep. All right. So thank you, Brian. That was very informative. I appreciate you sharing it.
Oh, you're welcome, guys. All right. So that was my thing. Anyway, back to you, Charlie. W7JD.
Okay. Well, let's switch over to Dan and see what he's been up to. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sorry, I had to get that in there. W7JD for ID.
Okay. And Dan,
right.
We'll switch over to you now and see what you have for us. All right.
All right. So let me clear a screen, and I am going to share a screen. Hopefully, we will see.
And so far, nothing.
Uh-oh. There we go. They changed things up on me here, so.
All right.
All right. So, kind of some good news. So, I've been hoping that someday when I retire that I can have some place to retire to. So, we are actually in the process of purchasing a property. So it's supposed to close on the 13th here. So hopefully that will be the case because I'm very excited to get up there and start spending some time. This is up in Overcard, Arizona, which is between Payson and Sholo. And I'm presented with finally the problem of putting in a ham shack.
Nice.
Which will be great because I've always wanted to be able to, while working, be able to, do like Charlie and Brian can do and, chase some SOTA, chase some POTA. So we're very excited about it. So what we're going to do is I don't know if anybody else operates this way, but it's going to be in a shed out in the backyard. I'm buying a new shed, probably a 8x10 or a 10x12. I'm going to move my existing lab that you see behind me and all the radios up there, and kind of make it nice inside, winterize it, and all those fun things, and hopefully be able to get some power out to it. Otherwise, I might end up running on solar. I haven't really decided that part yet. But this is kind of what the lot looks like, this area here. And I'm trying to decide what to do tower-wise or maybe not. So I was thinking too, back to Brian's point about SDRs, is putting it, a long line in these trees for, be able to run an SDR and get some extra receive capabilities. But there's a shed out here currently, and plan is to put another shed right underneath this tree. This tree is pretty tall. I can easily fit a shed underneath this. But the question becomes, fortunately, power is like right here, so it's not a very long distance to have to dig up and run power out there. But the question will be, what kind of tower and antenna to put up. I kind of like the hex beams, but there is some winter up there, and depending upon where it's at, whether or not it's how accessible it is. But one of the possibilities I'm thinking of is off the end of the house, put a tower up there, and then that way, if I need to play with the antenna a little bit, I can just get up on the roof and do my thing. I'm only thinking, maybe a 24-foot to 30-foot type tower is probably going to be the max. Is probably what I'll want to put up. But some of these trees will go away, so that'll give me, maybe another spot. I don't know if it makes sense to take and put a tower up that's also bolted up against the actual shed or not. So I'm kind of looking for some thoughts on what other folks have done, especially if you operate in a shed type environment, kind of how you've put things together.
How far are those power lines off the back of the house?
It's about 30, 40 feet out there. It's
Okay.
not really far. I don't think I'll get to have the luxury of a tilt over unless maybe it's something that I can nest, which may be a good possibility. I don't know.
I think you probably have to you'd have to put the tower up toward the front of the house, because if you don't want that to be, unless you go like under 40 feet, which wouldn't be great, but I would probably put it somewhere up toward the front so you don't have to worry about it falling into the wires.
Yeah, that's why this is fairly clear on this end of the house. So
Is that also your property there to, further up
this way?
where the truck is? Yeah.
Yeah, this is the neighbor's driveway. So there's like 10 feet out here that we own. So just beyond where these rocks are is where the property edge would be.
Okay. Well, your antenna may hang over the top of his
his property.
Driveway, maybe.
Yeah.
Andy says the hex beam works great at 30 feet, so that's cool.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm running now. I've actually got this hex beam. Well, there's a story behind this hex beam, right, Dan?
Yes, definitely.
It's been passed around.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, so there was a hex beam. Brian saw it in an advertisement. He's like, "Hey, you've been looking for one of these?" And I was like, "Hey, I have." So I went and I bought it, and then I wasn't able to put it up where my current location was. So Brian ended up buying it. So
yeah, I believe, as I put it to you, Dan, the price that they're offering for it, if you don't buy it, I will.
Yes.
Just so I can have it, and ultimately that's what happened anyway. Now it's sitting now it's on a tower in my backyard and has been for about 2.5, 3 years now.
Yeah. So in another option, I guess maybe like a a pair of rotatable dipoles. I don't know if that makes great sense or not. But I'm kind of leaning more towards, the hex beam because it's a little easier to maintain, and if I need to take it down, then, that's something, as long as I could reach it off from the roof, I can, take it apart and take it down. So.
Yeah. So you guys listening in chat and watching right now, what suggestions do you have for Dan? What do you think he should do given his conundrum as far as what he has going on? New place, should he go? What kind of tower? What kind of battery source? What kind of radio? I mean, what should he do? And he obviously is going to operate out of that shed. It sounds like, huh?
That's the plan. Put a new shed back there, and run power out to it. Have a little heat for the winter time. Shouldn't really need any AC, but just a nice little place to kind of be able to operate from. So it's kind of a dream come true. It'll be pretty interesting to be able to, get it put together and be able to operate. Matter of fact, the first night we're going up there, I'm planning on taking an antenna and everything and seeing how quiet it is up there and see what kind of contacts it can make. So it should be a lot of fun.
Very good. Ham Radio Tectonics, our favorite guy. How you doing, buddy? He says, I'm running a Polymer Engineering 160 loop right now and loving it. Simple set it and forget it. Tuner required, though. Okay.
Yep. Fortunately, I've got that covered, and I've got a brand new Yaesu rotor that hasn't been even used, as well as about 50 miles worth of cable, it seems like, that I purchased for another project that didn't come to fruition.
So John, WV3L, he put Control Plus, and then right here he's like, hey, can you zoom the picture in? he's having a hard time looking at stuff, I guess.
Let's see here. Zoom. There we go.
Yeah, that's better.
Hopefully that's better. Yeah, so it's basically the lot lines. If you can see my mouse kind of come all the way back here to the back side of the power lines. So I can't use this area. I can't dig here. That's where the septic field is right here. So
what are behind these trees on the southernmost end of the property? Like what's underneath there?
Under here?
So from the power lines, from where your point pounder is, straight up to the small roof. So
this way?
Nope. Come down. So yeah, so I guess it would
a little
be
shed.
No, yeah. So right here next on the house, that little roof. Yeah. So what's behind those trees, or what's under those trees?
Absolutely nothing.
That would be the spot that I would put the tower then.
Okay. Yeah, because I know
that'll give you the most clearance with those trees. Yeah, that would probably be where I would put the tower.
So a 30-foot tower, it sounds like, and then a hex beam, it sounds like. Those are the two things that you're leaning towards, or that Brian suggests anyway. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I'm leaning for. Yeah.
Well, and then if you clear out those trees and put that there, that's where the power is too, right?
Yeah, the power comes in over here, and there's the meter and everything. The main box is all right here in this area too.
Yeah, there's a legal limit of how close you can put the tower to what, I'm wondering.
Well, he's in Navajo County, and they're going to have different stuff from us up here. Yeah. They might not even care.
Yeah, my understanding is that it's pretty wide open as far as what you can do.
Okay, yeah, legal limit from the power lines. He says there's a legal limit from how close you can be to the power lines. Yeah. Do you know that yet?
I don't yet. Yeah. I don't. Yeah. So that's all something in the next week or two that I'm hoping to find out. So I haven't had a lot of luck getting a hold of folks up there that knew what a ham radio tower was. So it might be interesting to figure it out. So.
Yeah. And then as far what radio are you going to use in your SOTA POTA shack?
Well, I'm going to primarily use the 991, and then I'll take the Elecraft KX3 KX3 with me. So those will be primarily what I use, and it's really nice because it's a great place for SOTA to be able to spend the long weekends up there and be able to hit the mountains. So. Matter of fact, for 10-Point Madness, I'm going to have to change my mountain to someplace out in this area now. So looking forward to that.
Yeah. I might as well plug that right now while we're here. I was just talking to Dan earlier today, actually before we went live here, and I realized that it's time to start promoting the event that happens here every year in Arizona, the 10-Point Madness event. So the idea is everybody in Arizona who's a SOTA activator, who's willing and able, will get on a 10-point summit, and we will all be on there simultaneously, and we will work each other summit to summit. We get a lot of summit to summit contacts, and then just have fun, probably be on 10 meters if it's open, and have a good time. But we usually get participants who come into town or into Arizona to also participate. And we also enjoy, there's a whole bunch of people from all the way from the East Coast to the West Coast, North, South, everywhere. We got friends all over who like to participate as well in this event and get on their own 10-point summit. And so usually we get a lot. I mean, I think Pete last year got over 50 summit to summit contacts. So that's a lot of points. So that's let me get my calendar out here and let you guys know when that is, so that I can button this up. So it's October 5th this year, October 5th, and we usually we get on the air as early as like 7 or 8 o'clock Arizona time, which is going to be that's 1650, 1400, I think, is 7 o'clock, 1400. So 1400, start looking for us, 1500, right around in there. I'll put out a flyer to all the places here sometime in the next little bit, but that's good. Anyway, sorry to interrupt and take over, Dan, but do you have anything else?
Nope, that pretty much covers it. If anybody has any suggestions or anything, let me know. I'm good on QRZ, or add your contact, or add some comments into the chat, and I'll take those all into consideration as I move along.
All right. So once again, if you have suggestions for Brian's shack, let him know. Salt Palm, I'm chasing POTA SOTA this afternoon while getting some other work done in the home and office, and happened upon this live feed. Welcome. So glad that you could be here and join us. We welcome you, and hopefully we all learn something from each other. All right. And then Sue and Chuck are both here. Thank you, Chuck and Sue. Good to see you. All right. Let's, I guess I'll dive into my thing now, and we'll talk about it for a little bit. So I was contacted by, I can't remember the guy's name now. He sent me an email. I should probably pull that up and see who that is just real quick, because I want to recognize him and not take credit for this. So it was Tony. PA9CW is the guy that was referred to me actually by Justin. Justin is KW6SEA. Justin, KWSEA. He says, hey, there's a guy named Tony, PA9CW, that talks all about, he's mentioned this contest a lot, and I'd like to, or it's actually not a contest, it's an award. And he said, I think it'd be nice of you to have him on the show, and we're considering it. We might have him on, but I thought I'd mention this anyway. This event, it's let me pull up a screen here and show you, and see here. So the event is the North American QRP CW Club. First of all, is the one who hosts it, and they're a great club. I don't think that there's any fees involved to join them. You can join them and get your number. It's a great QRP club. And it's North American, so it's not like you have to be from anywhere specific. But what this is, maybe I can zoom in here a little bit, and it doesn't take place at any particular time. You basically, if you make a contact QRP and it's over 1,000 miles, and we're operating 1 watt, then it counts, and so you divide the miles. Or sorry, you take the distance and you divide the power you're operating by that, and it'll tell you how many watts per mile you get. And so the categories are simple. You either have a simple antenna wire, or else you have some sort of a gain antenna. And so there's A or B categories, and your power should be QRP. And then you just kind of do this calculation, and you see how many how far what the distances you can go. So the goal is the award is to cover as much distance as possible with as little power as possible. And so all the distances from 1,000 miles per watt count, and you can calculate your distances with this little nifty thing on QRZ.com. But let me just go over here real quick. Here's the reflector with on the SOTA page with PA9CW. He was talking about this NAQCC 1000 MPW award. And so there's a link right here. I'll put this in the notes afterwards. But so I'm going to go ahead and do this, because as you know, if you've been following my channel, I have taken out this RockMite plus, and this puts out, I can do on 20 meters it's 600 milliwatts, and on 40 meters it's 700 milliwatts. And I just took this out earlier this week and played with it. And let me show you here. Here's my log. Let me pull that up. Have to stop screen and share a different screen. I'm in an entire window. There we go. Popping around different windows, so I need to do this. Okay, so right here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 contacts that are 700 milliwatts. Sorry, 600 milliwatts, and that was on 20 meters, and then a couple of them on 40 meters at 700 milliwatts. So let's just take a few of these. I'll take this KF6HI, and we'll put him in QRZ.com and get the details on that. We'll get his grid square, which is right there. I'll copy that over to the calculator here, and to that grid square. Of course, my grid square is the summit that I was on. I was on Dixie Benchmark, and so you can get that here on the SOTA website, and it was DM33WS, and put that in here. And then I put the watts. That's going to be 0.6 watts, and calculate the distance. And let me zoom that in. So for this one contact, I got it was 2,443 miles per watt. So it qualifies. So not that hard to do. If I was to take one of these contacts like this one here from my friend here locally, a 20-meter contact, that's sideband. This is 5 watts. So same thing, WA7JTM here. I'll put that in. QRZ to get his grid square. And copy that over to that calculator. I'll refresh that. Put the grid square in. And again, I cleared out that, so I'll put that in. Grid square. And for this one, I was operating 5 watts. And so calculate the distance. It works the opposite way for you.
2 miles per watt.
2 miles per watt. So you can see how the math works, and how you might be able to really get out there and do some fun stuff with it. Let me stop sharing my screen here now, and I'll just chat a little bit more about it. So I think that this contest is really doable. It's not a contest, actually, this certificate. And if you actually go back and you look at your logs, if you're SOTA-ing or POTA-ing, especially if you have DX that you've operated, or if you're on one end of the coast and you operate you make a contact on the other end of the coast and you're operating 5 watts, I think that a lot of people have actually earned this award and without even knowing that they have. But there's another little thing that you can do, and you can find some of your DX and see how it works. Like, I can't remember there was a guy in the Philippines that I worked on 5 watts. So of course, that's halfway around the world. So I'm sure that it's going to be like the miles per watt's going to be something like 10,000 or something like that. So it's a fun little thing that you might be able to do and consider. So anyway, I'll turn it over to you guys to see if you have any questions.
Yeah, it's kind of neat because it shows you how powerful amateur radio can be. You don't need a lot of power necessarily to make contacts. Yeah,
for sure. Oh, look here. The Salt Palm guy is KK7EHJ. Thank you so much for joining. Yeah, so I have really been surprised at the contacts that I've been able to make with such low power, the QRPP power. The mountain that I was on just yesterday, Cedar Mountain, I took up a Pixie on that mountain, and I had that put out a little over 200 milliwatts, and I was able to work somebody in Washington with that. And so, it's really possible to go really low power. And in fact, another example is I was on another summit near here, Mount Ord, and I have the FT817 that I'm still rocking. And at that time, I had that up, and I was operating. And in the power selection, it has like kind of like a little speaker with little lines, and one line is a certain power, 2 lines is another power, 3 lines is another power, and then the next power is it doesn't show anything. And I thought that if it doesn't show anything, that's like the lowest amount, and if it had like the 3 speakers, it was the highest amount. But in fact, if it's not on at all, that's 5 watts. And so I was operating at I believe I was operating at 2.5 watts from that mountain, and I did the whole activation, and I think my log was 30 or 40 contacts with 2.5 watts. So it didn't make that much a difference to me. I didn't think between the 2.5 and the 5 watts. So you definitely can do a lot with a little bit of power. It's interesting. Dan is just kind of in the middle, and then Brian and I are the bookends. I think we're parting ways a little bit because I'm diving down the QRPP lower and lower power, and Brian is he rocks the 500 watts and does the DX now. So of course we dabble in all the stuff, but what do you think? Is that true?
It all depends. If I'm most of the time, so when I do the CWTs, I rarely have the amplifier on. I usually just run 100 watts. Unless I'm running on 80 meters, and that's mainly because I have a compromised antenna for 80 and 160. But everywhere else, if I usually start with 100, and then if that doesn't work, then I turn on the 811H and go full tilt boogie and bump it up to 800 and make the lights blink in the house, and because you can visually, as you guys know from doing the QSO parties here, you can visually decode CW in the house when the amplifier is running because the lights blink and
yes, I have
sequence with the key.
Yep.
So
I have video of that, the lights blink.
yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. All right. KD7DUG QRP Radio Adventures. Of course, he's biased because, as you can tell right in his name, he says QRP is absolutely the best. Can't get enough of it. I agree. I really love the QRP for sure. And then go ahead, Brian.
I was gonna say, when I run SOTA though, I'm only running 4 watts. We know that.
That's true.
Thousands of contacts at 4 watts.
Don't you make your lights blink? Make the neighbor's lights blink too, right? Don't just make your late night. He wants to go full bore. He says, don't just make your lights blink. Make your neighbors blink too. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. There you go. My neighbors like me, so I want to keep it that way.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, so it's a free for all. We'll wrap up here in just a minute. But is there anything else anybody wants to mention? I think I've kind of covered what I wanted to. Just to go out there and do some QRP and see what it does. Do some experimenting. Hop into a park and see what you can get. So
I was curious how you like that RockMite.
Yeah, the RockMite here it's really cool. I did a video on it. Maybe I'll just real briefly show you for those of you who didn't catch what the video is on it. So this RockMite here, it's really cool. So volume here, speed here, and then you put the phones in on the back. I have these thumb screws, and what you can do, the original RockMite was rock bound, which means that you can only operate it on the frequency in which the crystal is in there. So like if you have a crystal that's 7.030, you are only allowed to, it will only transmit on 7.030, and maybe just a little down from that. So Rex Harper, he's the one that did this. He keeps improving this RockMite, and he made it so that you can switch out with just a couple of boards. You can switch out the frequency and put different frequencies in here. And so I had a board for 7.030 and a board for 14.060. And then, of course, when you do that, you have to switch out the low pass filter as well, because otherwise it won't work. So let me just show you real quick. Those of you who have seen the video, then great. If you haven't seen the video, then go check it out. It's a Summits on the Air video, but I'll just show you here real quick. Slide this board out. And I actually love this radio. I think it's really fun. It is a little different than just operating, and of course it's a kit. So right here these are the crystals. There's 2 crystals here. Let me see if I can bring that up and show you.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And that's the board that comes out right there. And then over here is the low pass filter. It's actually right here.
Okay, the vertical one.
The vertical one. And so this pulls out like this. You just pull that out, and then you pull this out and switch them with the other ones, and then you put it back in and start operating on the other band. So pretty cool. This also has a really cool keyer in it that allows you to really do some good stuff, some fun stuff with your paddle when you're operating. And the RockMites are really well designed. I mean, these are good radios. These are not like the cheapo, minimal parts things. The receiver in this is amazing. And it transmits well too. And the designer was he he really got it right, and it hasn't been modified much in the other than adding like a few things to make it better. I would say also you could go to AliExpress or eBay and you could find a RockMite for sale, but they're not the real RockMites. They're made from cheap parts and not all the components, and they're actually in most cases actually they're not even a real RockMite. They're not even the same design. So, but at any rate, love the radio. I'm going to go out and do some more activations with it, and especially see if I can start pursuing that award with the RockMite. Maybe I'll do an all RockMite, a KMPW award. We'll see. So
that'd be pretty cool to go out and do that. So
yeah,
and,
for sure.
And that thing like weighs nothing, which is nice too.
Yeah, good backpacking radio.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. And I'm certain that Adam K6ARK is going to find a way to make this case half the size it is right now with a 3D printed box of some sort.
So does that use a 9-volt battery, or are you using?
It's anywhere from 9 to 14, I think. It has a range of power. I use the LifePo battery, 13 point.
Oh, okay.
Whatever it is, volt, and that's so. But you can go down in power, and I think even a 9-volt battery will work. Yeah. So, anyway, fun stuff.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Anything else from you guys on what's going on?
Hamfest next week.
What? There's a Hamfest next week?
There is. I am going to go there just for the fun of it.
Where is it?
It is in Overgard, Arizona.
So Heber Overgard.
Yes, W7.
I know somebody who just bought a house up there.
Yeah. So I guess that's where I'm going to be this weekend. So I'm going to go up there and check that out, see what's there, and see who knows what about easy ways to work with the county to make sure I don't do anything to upset them as I put up a tower.
Yeah, cool. My plans this coming weekend, I'm going to be for a few days sometime this weekend. I'm going to be up in Navajo country again, staying with Herb, and we'll be doing some summits up there near Lukachukai. So N7HG, Herb Goodluck. His dad, as you know, he was a Navajo code talker in World War II. The flag behind me was given to me by Herb for some of the stuff I've done to help him, and just a great guy. And so we're going to go do some SOTA. We'll do some near his house, and then we'll do some over by Chinley area a little bit. So it'll be fun, fun trip. So that's what I have planned coming up this next weekend. What about you, Brian? Work, play?
I don't know. I'm working Monday and Tuesday, and I think Wednesday is probably going to be banging the key and doing some CWT stuff in the mornings for sure. Been doing those quite a bit lately, and they're good time. Lots of DX actually too. Thursday, I'm not sure. We'll see. Thursday probably be lunch with the radio dudes. Got a DX association meeting that night, and then. And speaking of that, actually talk about that real fast. So the Arizona QSO party is coming up. And this year, the Central Arizona DX Association happens to be affiliated with, although he's no longer with us, Barry Goldwater. And our call for the club is Barry Goldwater's call, K7UGA. And the week leading up to the QSO party, we will be operating his call sign. You can get a certificate or a QSL card from us. It'll be OQRS for the QSL cards, and everything will also be uploaded to Logbook of the World. I will be the one coordinating all the stations running. And then on the day of the QSO party, K7UGA will be on the air as a bonus station for the Arizona QSO party, operating as K7UGA in a non-competitive role, meaning we're just going to be on the air, making contacts and giving out points to people, and we're not competing because that would be unfair since we're using Barry's call sign, and that's fairly popular with people. So we're just going to be on the air, and depending upon what goes on, there's a good chance that might actually be happening from the W7JET Superstation. So we'll be operating at least 2, possibly 3 radios from here that day, either in the QSO party as WB7TJD for the Superstition Amateur Radio Club, or as K7UGA in memorial of Barry Goldwater. So that's the only thing I got coming up that I forgot to mention earlier. So
Okay,
yep.
and that's
be there.
and that's what, the 14th.
I have to look at when the Arizona QSO. So if you look up the Arizona QSO party,
it's October 12th.
October 12th. So yeah, like I said, Charlie, it's October 12th.
There you go.
So yeah, October 12th. It starts at 8 in the morning Arizona time and runs till 10 o'clock in the evening Arizona time one day. So 1500 Zulu till 0500 Zulu.
Okay, very cool. All right, guys. Well, let's call it good. And I appreciate the both of you, Dan and Brian, both great friends. I can't thank you enough for just your friendship, and then also, of course, I enjoyed these streams. We'll do it again in a month, I guess, if we're available. And so thanks to all of you guys who have been on and been watching and supporting the channel and supporting us. Really appreciate it. So we'll wrap it up. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Dan?
Thanks, everybody, for joining today. Really appreciate it, and look forward to any suggestions anybody has. So this will be the first time for me doing this. So let me know what your thoughts are.
Brian?
Same here. You know, I enjoy, as always, I enjoy hanging out with you guys, both here and at lunch, which we need to probably do this week since I have a lot of surplus of time. So we'll have to figure out a day.
I'm down.
And the other thing is, we're regarding rotors. If there's people out there that have questions or have never done anything with them before, or they whatever, just shoot me an email. I'm more than happy to help with it. I've gotten pretty good with working on those things, and anything DX or HF related. I love sharing and helping out and talking to people. So feel free to reach out. If you have Ham Shack Hotline, you can actually call me directly on Ham Shack Hotline. My number is published on my QRZ page.
Yeah, very cool. Okay, thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
73.